Thomas had always dreamed of owning his own home, and when he finally found a quaint little house in the country, he thought he had hit the jackpot. The neighborhood was peaceful, and the neighbors seemed friendly, except for one unsettling detail: Margaret. Margaret lived in the house next door, an elderly woman with a smile that sent chills down Thomas's spine. She greeted him warmly enough, but there was something off about her. She often spoke in nonsensical phrases, and her eyes seemed to hold secrets untold. One evening, shortly after moving in, Thomas noticed Margaret in his house. It was late. He was reading in the living room when he caught a glimpse of her in the hallway. He called out, "Margaret!" but she disappeared around the corner. He followed her from room to room, but each time he thought he had her cornered, she slipped away. Finally, he tracked her to an upstairs bedroom, only to find it empty. Thomas glanced out the window towards Margaret's house and saw her silhouette moving around in her upstairs bedroom as if she had been there the whole time. How could she have possibly gotten there so quickly? Thomas grew even more puzzled about Margaret and the strangeness surrounding her. The next day, Thomas confronted Margaret cautiously, asking about her presence in his house the previous night. Margaret smiled benignly and explained,
"Sometimes the lights can play tricks on your eyes this far out in the country. It must have been a shadow."
As weeks passed, Thomas noticed more strange behavior from Margaret. One night, he woke to see her in her backyard carrying a candle and murmuring incoherently. The candle lit her face with a spooky glow. Her chant sent shivers down his spine, and he couldn't shake the feeling of unease. Most days, Margaret was sweet and kind, but there were moments of abrupt vulgarity and aggression where she would yell threats at Thomas from across their yards. He began to avoid her, fearing her unpredictable behavior. A few weeks later, another neighbor, Mr. Williams, returned home after an extended absence. Thomas, relieved to meet another neighbor, seized the opportunity to go over and introduce himself. Plus, Thomas wanted to discuss Margaret's oddities with him, hoping for an explanation. They chatted amiably for a while about the neighborhood until Thomas mentioned Margaret. "What can you tell me about Margaret?" he asked cautiously. Mr. Williams paused, studying Thomas intently.
"Margaret? You mean our old neighbour?"
Thomas nodded. Mr. Williams sighed heavily.
"Margaret has been gone for almost 15 years now. She had mental health issues, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia. She was troubled."
Thomas's heart sank. He looked over at Margaret's house and saw her staring back at him from the upstairs window. Her smile was no longer benign but twisted with malice, and he could swear he heard her eerie laughter echoing through the still night air. It dawned on Thomas then that he had been seeing Margaret's ghost all this time, the ghost of a woman trapped in her own torment, forever haunting the place she once called home. The realization sent a chill down his spine as he contemplated the implications of living next door to such a restless spirit. From that night on, Thomas kept his distance from Margaret's house. He would sometimes catch glimpses of her in his peripheral vision or hear faint whispers carried on the wind. Margaret's presence became a haunting reminder of the thin veil between the living and the dead, a reminder that some spirits never find peace, even in death. As he lay awake at night, Thomas could sometimes still hear Margaret's chilling laughter, a haunting sound that echoed through his mind many nights while living at that house, and long after he had left that home behind.